Hey guys, welcome to our first devotional together. Like we said, we're going through the life of David over these next few weeks. And the story starts pretty much in 1 Samuel chapter 16. So if you got your Bibles, I wonder if you mind turning there with me to 1 Samuel chapter 16. And it's a short verse. It says, 1 Samuel 16, reading from verse 1. The Lord said to Samuel, "How long will you mourn for Saul, since I have rejected him as king over Israel? Fill your horn with oil and be on your way. I'm sending you to Jesse of Bethlehem. I have chosen one of his sons to be king." And so we find an interesting situation going on here. Saul was the first ever king of Israel. And Samuel was the prophet of God at the time. And he was not on board with Israel having a king outside of God himself. Samuel believed that God was the king. But when the people put pressure, eventually God relented. And he said, okay, fine, if they want a king, they can have a king on earth. And they can see what that's going to be like. And so Saul is the first king. And Samuel had kind of high hopes for Saul. And Saul eventually turned out to be a bit of a bad egg, to be honest. And Samuel was grieving over that at this time. And it could have been different. It could have been so much better. And God comes to Samuel in the middle of this place. And he says, Samuel, the season that you've been in, the season that all of this has happened in, is over now. I've rejected Saul as king, and now I've chosen someone else to be king. And I don't want to overread into this text, but I think it's really poignant for us at a time like this. For many of us, I think we've had hopes for a specific season, and perhaps we get to the end of that season and it hasn't quite turned out like we wanted it to. I think at the moment, in the way things are in the country, many of us probably couldn't have seen this coming, where the situation's at the moment. And for Samuel, he felt like what he'd hoped for hadn't turned out. His life and his hopes hadn't worked themselves out. And I think for many of us at the moment, if we look at our lifestyle, perhaps it's not exactly like we were hoping it would be. We feel a little bit constrained in our relationships. We're a bit bunched up with the people in our home, and we can't go and spend time with all the people we want to. Perhaps our environment around us isn't the same vibey environment that we enjoy. Maybe with our belongings, we're feeling a little bit pinched there as well. But maybe this environment that we're in at the moment, or this space we're in, doesn't feel quite like we dreamed about it. And what's so beautiful about this text is it reminds us that Samuel, despite the fact that he was mourning what had happened with Saul, his role as the prophet was to anoint the new king of Israel. And he still had a role to play. So God comes to him and he says, even though you're feeling like this, you have a role to play in this new season. And I think for us at the moment as the church, despite how we're feeling at the moment, despite the things that we're experiencing, we still have a role to play in the world around us to encourage people to be strong, to bring hope, to bring light and life. And we'll talk a bit about that as the weeks go on and how we're going to do that practically. But we still have a role to play right now. And when things and circumstances change, God commands us, and we've got a responsibility to respond to what God is saying to us. But I think when we look back, how do I not mourn over my past, over what I consider to be the badness of my past? Well, or how things have gone badly. Jesus has been so good in bringing us up to this point. He's been so faithful. When I look back at my past, instead of it being something that I look at and I mourn the loss of it, I mourn the loss of my freedoms, or I mourn the loss of my relationships, I can look and go, wow, God, you've been so incredibly faithful up till now. With everything that you've done up till now, I know that in this new season, you don't change. Your word promises us that you'll be exactly the same going forward from here. And so our past isn't like a ball around our leg which holds us back. Rather, it's fuel for our future that gives us hope. So maybe to ask yourself the question, what can I thank God for in the season that I've just been in? Because I want to appreciate and say, Lord, thank you so much for what you've done. I'm so excited about what you're going to do in my future. Secondly, maybe just over the course of today, while we do this devotional, is in what areas of my life has God moved on? And I actually need to lay it down. I can't keep hanging on to the past and hanging on to the way things were. But I need to open up and say, Lord, my past is my past. I'm leaving it there. I'm looking forward to my future with you. And then lastly, if we're going to be praying for something over the course of today, there's probably just one simple prayer that I'd be praying over the course of today, and it's in line with this text, and it would be, God, give me the grace today for this new season where things do feel different. It doesn't feel the same, Lord, but that doesn't mean that you're not there. I'm asking you for the grace and the ability and everything that only you can give me, for me to be able to not just cope. I don't want to cope. I want to be able to make this new season my season and to make the most of it, because that's what Jesus has intended for us. Hope this has been helpful for you guys. Really looking forward to seeing you tomorrow morning.